Hello, and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I make scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. I was just showing you the newsletter there from the MercyTiara kit from July. Today I'm working on the Summer Lovin' kit, which is the kit that drops July 1st. And I'm working on the July sketch of the month over at the MercyTiara Kit Club Facebook group. The link to that group is in the information section below. But this sketch is brought to you by Christine Davidson from Creative Scrappers. Her link is also in the information below. And each month over there, we have a sketch challenge, and one lucky participant wins a $25 gift card to the shop. And today I am just having a look through the papers here for the Summer Lovin' kit because I'm looking for one that's going to work with both the photo that I have and the story that I want to tell. Now, this floral paper there, the multicolored one that I just covered up, that one, I set one piece of that aside because that's my favorite paper in the whole kit. So I'm definitely going to be using that today. I have two of each paper here because I have the main kit and also the extra pattern paper add-on. So if you only get the main kit, you will only get one of each kit. There's the website on the screen right there for picking up the Summer Lovin' kit. So as you can see, I'm just looking through and I grabbed that orange floral because I felt like that was going to work well. These are the papers that I'm starting with, the yellow cardstock from the cardstock add-on, as well as those two pattern papers. And I'm thinking I might use one of those cut aparts. I'm also having a look at some of these other cut aparts just to see if any of them might work. A lot of these are very beachy themed and my photo is not a beach photo. So I'm actually going to not use those. Now here's that sketch, and I am going to end up turning it around a little bit just because of the way that I ended up cutting my paper. So this floral, it doesn't look like it has an up and a down, but it kind of does if you look closely enough. And that is the reason that I'm going to end up turning this sketch around a little bit. So I'm starting by removing the designer strip, and then I'm taking off 1 inch from two adjacent sides to give me an 11 by 11 inch square. I'm going to do the same with this one. So I took off 1 inch as well as the designer strip on that side and then 1 inch on that side. That gives me two 11-inch squares. Now I'm going to cut them in half, and they don't fit in a trimmer, in a normal trimmer anyways. So I am just going to use my handy dandy pencil and ruler and scrap it old school by just cutting straight down that diagonal. I'm going to do the same thing on this second piece of paper. And I'm wondering here, I'm kind of wondering out loud. I was filming a real-time scrapbooking process video with my tiaras over on Patreon while I did this. And I was kind of thinking out loud about whether I'm going to have to cut this down a little bit more, but it turns out that I won't. You'll see that as I kind of put the page together. So I end up with two extra triangles here that I'm not going to need, but I will take one and the other. My thought process is that the title will go on the orange paper because it's a little bit less busy. They're both pretty busy, but the orange one is less busy than that top one, especially where my letter stickers are white. I want them to go on a background that isn't so white. So as you can see, here's where I'm just discovering that there is sort of an up to this floral because one of those flowers has like a cup-like look to it, and they're all facing the same way. So I think that it was supposed to go the way that it is right now. It really doesn't matter because I had to look pretty closely to see that, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So I did decide to switch around the layout a little bit to allow for my paper to be right side up. At least in my mind, it's right side up. Now I am outlining this paper with a 1.0 point pen. So this is a Sakura Graphics 1 pen. It's very similar to those Pigma Micron pens that I often use for my planner and journaling, but it's just a thicker nib on the tip. So that's the pen right there. I'm just showing that it's very close, very similar to the Sakura Pigma Micron pens. Now I'm going to use my distress tool here to rough up the edges of this triangle. I was going to use my fingernails, and then I always worry that I'm going to get a paper cut when I do something like that. So I'm just going to use my tool to make it go a little bit faster. It also really roughs up the edges quite a bit more. When I use my fingernails, they really just kind of curve the edge up. It's almost like it folds the edge up a little bit. I do like that folded up look, but in this case, I'm looking for a little bit more of a roughed up look. So this blade does a much better job. This is a Tonic Tim Holtz distress tool. I think that it might be sold under, like, Tonic might also sell it as a non-Tim Holtz branded tool. I think I've seen it around, but they're pretty easy to find in most scrapbooking stores or scrapbook.com or those sorts of places. I'm going back and just, as you can see with my fingertips, I'm just folding up the edges even more than what that distress tool gave me, just to give me an even more roughed up look. It adds quite a bit of dimension, and it also casts a bit of a shadow on the page, which I quite like, that gray shadow that you get when you put dimension on your page. So I'm taking my time going along all of the edges, and as you can see, really just making this background is the biggest part of this layout. Once the background is made, then it's all about just embellishing, and that's the funnest part, right? So we'll get this page done, this background page, and then we can get working. So now that my two triangles are ready, I'm going to mount them on my piece of yellow cardstock. This is from Simple Stories, and this cardstock came in the cardstock add-on. And I love this cardstock because it has dots on one side, and then on the other side it's plain. I'm using the dotted side because I just love that little bit of extra interest that it gives. But it's nice to have the option to have either look in case you didn't want the dots. So I just used my ATG to glue those two pieces down to my background, and I'm following the sketch fairly closely here, other than the fact that my diagonal runs the opposite direction. It's the only real difference here with this layout. I'm actually going to be very, very close to the layout once everything, or close to the sketch, I mean, once everything is said and done. I really like these days are sweet. These days are so sweet, and I don't know why, because it doesn't really match my layout story or the photo very well, but I'm just drawn to that. These days are so sweet. I'm not going to use it on this page, but I'm definitely going to come back to it. I think at some point pretty soon I'm going to put that paper away, because I'm just going to realize, wait a second, I'm not going to use that. I have the embellishment add-on here, which includes these frames, these chipboard frames, and I was flirting with the idea of framing out some journaling paper there and putting my journaling beside it in the frame, but I'm going to change my mind. Now, I do want my photo to have a little bit more presence on the page, so I am going to mount it on a mat that is dark, and a nice dark mat like this. This is a navy blue polka dot paper that came in the kit. It's just the B-side of another paper. I think it's the one with the beach balls. And that just adds so much more, like it makes the photo have a lot more presence, and it separates the photo from that background paper, which is fairly busy. Also, the background paper has really similar colors to what we're wearing and what's on the table, like oranges and blues and well, Scott's wearing his tie-dye t-shirt with like millions of different colors in it. So it's a very colorful photo. So this navy blue, it basically reads as a navy blue mat. It does a lot to set the photo apart from the background. Here's where I'm deciding to get rid of that piece of paper. I won't be using it after all, but I'll use it on a future layout. And I did struggle with coming up with a title for this one, but once I decided on the title, I decided on Movie Club Nomads, because we are our movie club we lost our location. So the brewery that we used to meet at has closed, and we've been going to all different breweries in the hopes that we will find a good home for our future meetings, but we haven't found one yet. So this was Propeller Brewery in Bedford, which we really love this place, but we just don't think it's going to be a good place for us for all of our sessions. We might have another couple here or go here outside of movie club, but I don't think that this will be our home. So I'm using the little puffy stickers that came in the embellishment add-on. And you guys, when I added this to the embellishment kit, I was not aware of just how nice these stickers are. They are amazing. I thought that they were going to be the little hard puffy stickers, the plasticky ones that are kind of shiny and they're stiff. These are those soft, flexible ones. They're so, so nice. I love them. I'm so glad that we picked them. It's not always easy to tell exactly what you're picking when you're designing based on the manufacturer's images, but wow, these are really nice letter stickers. And speaking of really nice letter stickers, here are these chipboard letter stickers from Vicky Bouton. These came in the main kit. And oh my gosh, I just love these. They are a really nice outline block letter with a almost like a newsprint behind it. And they are made out of a really supple paper. Let me think of how I might describe it. It's soft and it's matte, and it seems like it's going to take ink amazingly. These are from Vicky's mixed media collection, so I'm pretty sure that they were meant to be misted and inked and played with and colored and customized. I am customizing mine by by filling in the outsides of them instead of the letter itself. So I am just taking my indanthrine blue marker, and I have that marker in a superfine point and also in a chisel point. So I'm using the chisel point here to color in all of the outside edges, and that's going to leave me with a nice negative space of the N, and it's going to be beautiful. Now you'll notice that it does leave a little bit of an edge around the outside edges, and I don't want to be able to see that. So I'm also going to turn it on its edge and just run the edge of that marker right over it. Now this is a chisel tip marker, so I can just hold the marker straight and draw on it like this, draw on the edge. But if I had a pointier marker, I would just run that along the edge of my marker. Now I do have the superfine, so I'm also filling in any little gaps with the superfine tip just to make sure that there's no little gaps in there. As you can see, I have that set of stickers over to the left, and you can see that I did the Z, and that's what I just did to check and see if I was going to like this look. I imagined it in my head, but I wasn't sure how it would look when it was executed. So I did that Z first because I don't often use the word Z in any of the titles that I usually am making. So that's a good letter for me to play with and practice on. So that's usually the one that I sacrifice in these kind of situations. And it turns out I really love the look of it. Look at how great it looks. Even just the Z on the sheet of stickers looks really great. So what I love about this look is that it really does let the letters stand out from that busy background of the orange floral. So I really do like that about this technique of outlining the outside edges of it or filling in the outside edges. And then if you do make any mistakes doing this, don't worry, I won't show you all of these. I'm going to cut ahead at some point very soon, I think. But the one thing I'll say while we're still on this part of the video is that if you do make a mistake, I'm not sure if it's going to show up in this part because I edited it out and I did make a mistake. But if you make a mistake, you can just take a white gel pen and fill over the part that you made a mistake on. And that's a really great way to correct any mistakes that take place on a white surface. In fact, I skipped ahead and it looks like I'm going to do that in just a second here. So you'll get to see me. I went outside of the lines, or I guess it's actually inside of the lines here on a little part of the M. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'm just going to use my white gel pen to cover that up. And there we go. As I replace these letters on my page, I'm actually putting them so that they're touching each other. I just really like that look, especially with the outlining. I like how that looks. Now I just wanted to check and make sure that it was all straight, and it is pretty much straight. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I didn't want it to be. Sometimes after I put something in my page, I notice it's all kind of like slanting downwards as I go. So I just wanted to prevent that from happening. I'm just checking the sketch here to see what other things I might want to do here. But basically what I'm going to do is build 3 embellishment clusters around my photo. This will help draw the eye into the photo and also move the eye around on the page to take in all of the embellishing that I'm going to be doing. So I am taking a look at this sticker sheet, but I don't think I end up using anything from it on this particular layout, although I do really love those stickers. They just don't work with the page and with the story I'm trying to tell. So I went to these Simple Stories die cuts. These come in the main kit. And I'm just gonna set them all out around on on the bottom of my workspace here. And I'm making a pile of ones that are not relevant, and those are over to the left. And then the ones I haven't gone through yet are over to the right. And then as I work through them, if I see one that I think is going to work, I'll just place it where I think it's going to work. And then for other ones, I'm just putting them in between in the middle of there. Honestly, these die cuts are so cute. It's hard to pick which ones I'm going to use because they're just so adorable. I'm also kind of coming up with ideas and making another list off there to the side if you're wondering why I keep on pulling down a piece of paper that's not at all related to this page. I'm just doing my own weird version of multitasking, which is not advised when you have ADHD like I do. But sometimes I just can't help myself. So I am sorry that I'm not zoomed out enough for you to see the top cluster, but you will see it in a few seconds. I'm going to move my camera so that you can see it better. But in the meantime, I'm just pulling out, there you go, now you can see, pulling out everything that I need. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to use these labels. These labels come in the main kit. Every month we get a set of labels, but they are downloadable labels that you can print at home on your own printer. They print really beautifully just on a regular home laser printer or inkjet printer. It works both great on both. I've printed them up on my laser printer and I've printed them up on my inkjet, so they work really beautifully on either. And they're fairly easy to cut out as well. Each month they are color matched to the items that are in that kit. And there's plenty of them available. As you can see, there's two sheets. There's one sheet that is all large size labels, and then another sheet that are medium and small size labels as well. The circle ones, by the way, are sized specifically to fit with popular circle punches. So that makes it even easier to cut out those circle ones. I have decided that, the sketch shows two journaling strips below the title. So I've decided to use those labels for the strips at the bottom. I'm going to outline this little tab. The tab says nothing but blue skies. I'm going to attach that to this other little embellishment. It says summer fun. It says who, where, and when. And under who, I'm writing movie club members, where, all the breweries, and when, Friday nights. And I'm just going to scooch that under the photo right by Jen's face and pull up the tab a little bit. Whenever I use tabs, I do like to have them curl up a little bit and give it a little bit of dimension. And now this embellishment I'm going to place, and I am going to change it at the end. So keep an eye out. This is one of the very last things I'm going to do is move this embellishment and add a little something to it. This little label piece that fits behind there's no point in wasting that half of it because I can always use that, tuck that someplace else. I'm actually tucking this one in a little bit further than I expected. I could have cut off even more there to salvage, but that's okay. I'm going with it this way. Then I have this little leaf that I pulled out of the floral bits, which were a set of die cuts that came in the embellishment kit. I am going to rough up the edges of this with my fingers, just carefully, and going into all the little edges and corners just to make it look a little bit distressed there. We'll make it so that it's hanging out the bottom of that cluster. And then this little hibiscus flower, I'm going to put right in the corner of the photo right here. Brings a little bit touch of orange, but also some pink on the little stamen and stems or something of that one. This little label here, I had to pull out one of my foam pieces there to make room for it, but I'm going to glue the embellishment here that says, what does it say? It says today was just perfect. I'm gluing that to the little label embellishment so that they're layered together, and roughing up the edges of both of those pieces, and also kind of just curving the today so that it stands out a little bit. I could also stick a little foam dot under there if I wanted to, but I haven't yet. I might before I put it in my page, just to hold the space once it's in the page protector. I'll add that little foam piece back in its place. And now I feel like I'm done embellishing, so I'm going to put these these die cut pieces back into their little plastic baggie. I always transfer my die sets, my die cut sets, into plastic baggies because it's just easier to get them in and out with a little bit more room. I'm thinking about what else I might want to put on this, and I'm just noticing now, I'm just remembering that we have this little packet of extra little special embellishments. I love this about kit clubs. I really love getting a little treasure of little extra pieces that are just different than stuff that I already have in my stash. This month, we have some tickets from 49 in March, and not 49 in March, 49 in Market would be the name of that company. So we have tickets from them and stamps as well. And then we also have 4 different buttons and a little corduroy heart as well. So I'm going to put 3 out of those 4 buttons on this page in 3 different places in those 3 embellishment clusters that I mentioned at the very, very beginning. And so I will be adding some string to those because I do really like putting string in my buttons. I don't like them to be left empty, but they do, they do look nice empty, especially, Stephanie, who was on my stream while I was filming this. She's actually featured in our newsletter this month, but she was saying that, when a button is decorative enough, you don't actually need to put thread in it. I mean, you don't need to put thread in any button, but I do like putting thread in them. It makes them look a little bit more realistic, a little bit less like it's just a plastic embellishment and more like it's a button. It's there for a reason. I was going to double thread this, and I usually do double thread, but this particular string is just not, I would have to use a needle to double thread it, and I didn't want to have to worry about using a needle. So I decided to not double thread it. So I'm going to pull that out and just tie it on the back. Now for 2 of these buttons, I'm basically just having the thread show and it's tied on the back. And on one of them, I'm going to tie a bow on the front of the button. I'm going to use my glue dots to hold these little buttons in place on my page. And so this one will go up here. And that one is actually backwards. So there was a little pattern on the front of it, but I didn't like how the pattern was sort of distracting a little bit. And those buttons with the patterns on them look great on the back sides too. So if you don't like the pattern or it doesn't work with your page, feel free to flip that button around because it looks really nice the other way too. And then this one. This is a combination of Studio Calico buttons and another kind of button that I can't remember the name of. So there I am just tying that bow, and we'll trim off the little edges so that it's not so long. And then we'll just use a glue dot. And my first glue dot was not sticking. It was very stubborn. It wanted to stick to the paper and not to my button, but the second one worked better. So there we go. We'll place that right there. And now we have buttons in all 3 of our embellishment clusters. And not only do the buttons add some texture because they're smooth and plasticky, but also the thread inside of them is kind of hairy and funky. So I like that as well. I'm going to rough up the edges of these labels, and they're already connected to one another. I just wanted them to layer in a certain way. My journaling here says, since Off Track closed, we've been trying out other breweries in search of a new home for Movie Club. I find the word brewery a bit of a tongue twister. I always have trouble wrapping my tongue around that word, so forgive me if I misspeak it in future videos. One of my patrons who we were chatting while I was filming this, she suggested Suds Buds, and I thought that was a wonderful name. But I actually think I'm going to hang off on that name and use it for when we find our place. Then I'll do another layout, and maybe I'll call it Suds Buds. Now this is the exclusive confetti mix that comes in the Summer Lovin' kit, and boy, is it a stunner. It is gorgeous. So I am picking out little tiny pieces to just add a little bit of sparkle here and there. I'm putting them in sets of 2s. with a big one and a little one in a variety of different colors in the 3 different clusters, but there's actually 2 in the larger cluster. There's 2 sets of 2. And I also am putting some on my journaling as well. And it turns out, I don't know if I glued those down yet. No, I didn't. So let's make sure that we put those down. There we go. And now I think that this layout is done. And so therefore I am going to show it to you. Oops, let's put another cluster up here. I think I forgot to put one up in that top cluster. We'll put the sequins back in their little package, and I think I'm done. So I am going to show you this, but hang on because it's not quite done yet. There you get a very fast forwarded close up because it's not done. I think it's done. But here's where I decide, remember how I said that flag embellishment that's over by my shoulder is going to move? Well, here's where I think that looks kind of unfinished to have that flag just kind of randomly hanging out from my shoulder. It felt like it needed something to cap it off. And this piece of chipboard from the brads in the embellishment kit, that just works perfectly. So I'm going to put that there. And now that introduces a bright pink that isn't really anywhere else. It is in Scott's shirt, but it isn't anywhere else on the layout. So I thought, okay, well, we can add more pink by adding these small brads. So I'm going to there are 3 of them in pink. So I'm going to put 1 pink small brad in each corner. And again, I think I'm done, but I am not because I always like to fill up these little spaces. So I had meant to come back and fill up this space. I keep a drawer full of wood veneer right beside me as I scrap so that I can draw upon it pretty easily. And I had these little arrows. I had a variety of arrows. So I'm trying out a couple of different options there, but I'm going to end up going with this one. Now, you could ink this to make it nice and colorful and stand out on the page, but I've decided to leave it beige because we already have those beige colored buttons, neutral colored buttons. Some of them are beige and some of them are gray, but I think that this wood veneer piece just fills out the title a little bit better. Also, because nomads are always on the go, I thought the arrow just pointing over to the right kind of gave it a little bit more dynamic energy than it looked like it had just kind of sitting there without an arrow. I am very tempted to use these stickers, but I cannot find a way to use them, so I'm going to put them aside and save them for another layout, even though I really, really love them. Now, before I share my photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These are my tiaras. They are folks who help this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Tiaras get early ad-free access to all of my process videos and real-time unedited versions of my videos, usually in the form of a live stream. And we have at least 1 monthly live stream, usually weekly, and some behind-the-scenes videos and behind-the-scenes sneak peeks into our warehouse and the kit club process and so on. So thanks to you also for watching all the way to the end. I hope that you enjoyed this page. Stay tuned to my channel for more process videos and more non-process videos too. Those are coming up. So I know you guys have been waiting and looking for those, but they're on their way. So until next time, take care and have a really great scrappy week.